Hello, everyone. Stream looks kind of funny. The lighting looks funny. Maybe that's better. I don't know. Put a one in the chat if it looks kind of weird to you. It looks weird to me, like it has a halo or some kind of cloud over it. I don't know what's going on with that. Just kind of weird. Yeah, it's really fuzzy. And I don't think I've ever experienced that before. I don't know what to do about it. Um, let's see if I turn that light out. Let's see if that light helps or hurts. Really doesn't help a lot. I'll keep it there. Anyway, y'all don't need to see me anyway. Dirty lens. Let's see. Thank you, Thomas. Let me tell you why the lens was dirty. And it actually, I have these little thingies that cover the lens because the computer can spy on you when you don't want to be on there. So I have been using it a lot more lately because I've been on a lot of different situations where I needed it on there. I'll just be honest with you. The other day I did my hair and I had a couple of clients and I didn't want them to see me. So I made sure they didn't see me. And that's why. So thank you so much, Thomas, because I was like, this is weird. This is weird. Okay, great. So that helped out a lot because I was concerned. Anyway, hello, everybody. It is Friday, the 13th of March, and it's 8 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to get started. And what we're going to talk about is what we need to be doing to protect ourselves from the blowback that has already started. Now, unless you've been under a rock somewhere, you know that we are at war. How we got there and all of that, I'm not going to even discuss. It's disgusting to me that this was supposed to be the president of no wars, and it seems like a lot of the things that were promised are fading away or just actually flipping. So here we are. We've got we've lost some service people during this last couple of weeks, and this is not good, and it needs to be over. And I want you all to really concentrate on one thing when it comes down to these wars and proxy wars. Who's really benefiting? How are we benefiting from this? How is the United States truly benefiting from going in there and doing that? So some of you might know some ways. Yeah, Soul Shine. Soul Shine knows the truth. So with that being said, what we need to do is we need to figure out what we're going to do. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know, what's next. We already went in and actually took a sitting president out of his own country, out of his own house. I'm talking about Venezuela. And the things that I learned last night while I was watching a video was how maybe 30 soldiers went in and took him with some special kind of weapons that mess with your brain and cause you to have some issues with your nose and ears and stuff like that. This is getting wild. This whole thing is getting wild. It's really getting wild. And as I try not to pay that much attention to it because I have my head down, I have my nose to the grindstone trying to do what I'm going to tell you all we need to be doing. But every day I look and I have to shake my head. I just have to shake my head because this is not what the American people want. Overwhelmingly, the surveys say that most American people are not warmongers and we don't want this. Yet I saw pictures of what looked like hell to me because people are over there. We and other folks are over there blowing up oil fields. Do you all realize when they blow up an oil field, that stuff goes up and it has to come down? Can you realize what those people are experiencing with that, rain coming down, which is really the oil? It's really sad. I'm going to check the chat right quick. Yes, things in the past get knocked down to the next administration. That's true, but this wasn't from the last administration didn't do this. This is something that's been ongoing. So it really doesn't matter what administration it is. It's like one of the things that I want you to know is, and I always tell you all this, it's like the reason I don't vote is because changing the players without changing the game is an exercise in futility. The game has never changed. People come and go in office, but the game, which is controlled by other people, doesn't change. So when you're looking at who's in charge of this, and it doesn't matter what president is in charge, who's above the president. One day somebody asked a question in a conference that I was in, who's really at the head of all of this? And the answer was people that you'll never know their name. Um, it's all about power and control and controlling the resources of the world. You all know that the World Economic Forum has that saying, you're going to own nothing and be happy. And this stuff is manifesting with a quickness. This social credit score, these 15-minute cities, all this other stuff. And how many people are paying attention? Please put a 1 in the chat if you're paying attention to what these people are doing very rapidly. How many of you knew about a report that came out in 2010 about replacement migration? There is a report talking about what's going on right now. It's about replacement migration. And now you've been hearing within the last maybe 8 months about how many countries aren't even meeting their break-even birth rate. So this is not something new. This is a plan. It's all by design. It's all been by design. So when you sit back and look at what has been being designed, then you have to make some choices. And you shrug your shoulders and say, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Let me go watch the football game. Or I think it might be basketball season now. I think, yeah, it's basketball. I'll go watch the basketball game and just try to forget about it, like stay in the matrix. Or you can say, I want to preserve my family as long as I can. I might not be able to stop some of the circumstances that are going on, but I sure don't have to sit here while they disrespect me and do things that are going to cause my life to become in turmoil. For example, gas prices. I went to the gas station and I hadn't been in a while because I was out of the country. But when I got back, I still didn't go because I came back with a full tank. And once it emptied, yeah, the gas has gone up significantly. I'm sure you all have noticed that also. These are some of the things that I want you all to think about doing now that we're not in a good place. We're not in a good place. What I was going to say is there's a guy out there, and how many of you put a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with Congressman Thomas Massie? Thomas Massie is one of the ones that's pushing for the Epstein file release, and how slow they've been and how many redacted things they've been. It's just crazy. But one of the things he said, it wasn't this year, and I don't even think it was last year, it may have been 2024. He was doing an interview, and he said in that interview that everybody up in Washington, meaning congressmen, senators, and all that, they have an APAC handler. First of all, let me tell you what a handler is. A handler is somebody that's going to guide your path. So if you're going in a direction that the power elite don't want you to go, then that person is there to move you right back where you were supposed to be, or get you off of the path that you were on. That's what a handler is. And usually 9 times out of 10, you don't know that that person is handling you. So AIPAC is the lobby for Israel. And he said that everybody up in Washington has an AIPAC handler. And it could be a coincidence, but 10 days later, his wife was dead. and she wasn't already sick. This thing, yeah. So shine. Whoever you are, you know the deal. You all pay attention. Yes, I had a handler when I was involved with the tax honesty movement. When I started speaking all over the country and getting a little popular and on TV and in the movie, uh, America, Freedom, and the Fascism, and Zeitgeist, and all that, then the handler came along. I didn't know, of course, until after it was all over that it was a handler, somebody that posed as being in the tax movement, somebody that had, pretty decent amount of money. Usually these handlers have access to a lot of money. At that time, I wasn't doing well financially, because I wasn't really working and I was more speaking. And yeah, so the handler led me in certain directions, which after the fact, when everything was over, they just disappeared. Whereas my real friends were there to support me, support my family. That person just disappeared. And later on, I talked to a couple of other people that let me know that, yeah, I had a handler to make sure that I didn't go too far over to making sure that you all knew that we were being robbed. So that's what a handler is. But anyway, getting back to what we're supposed to be doing, when you're in a situation where the government is doing things that you don't want done, that you don't like done, and that will cause blowback. And what I mean is blowback, it's going to blow back on us. Now, the people that are up there doing it, they're not going to have the blowback. They don't care about gas prices. They don't care about food prices and all that, because they don't have to. But it's those in the middle class and the poor people that are going to get most of the blowback. The strategies that I have implemented and tell people to implement at this point, and these are some of the things that you should have already been doing. For example, limiting your discretionary spending. I call it conspicuous consumption. At this point, we need to be focusing and directing our resources to other more important things than buying new gym shoes. Now, if you have a hole in your shoes, then go get some more shoes. But don't get the $150 pair of shoes. Get a $30 pair of shoes, a $40 pair of shoes, depending on how big your feet are, it be $60. But when I talk about conspicuous consumption, I mean just things that people buy to try to look good to other people or to bolster their self-esteem. And there's a lot of that goes on all the time. I see it everywhere I go. The people that are wearing their money on their backs, or they're driving, their money. And it's not wealth, because that stuff depreciates. So those are some of the things. Build up a savings. Build up some savings. I don't like keeping money in the bank. You can keep some in the bank, but have some cash on you, because we don't know when what is going to happen and where. Just have some money on you. So, for example, as opposed to putting all of your money in the bank, maybe keep $100 or $200 back in small bills like fives, tens, and 20s, not necessarily 50s or hundreds, but 5, 10s, or 20s, and hide it away in your home. Some people have a safe, some people don't, but hide that away so that if we can use the cash, then you'll have cash and not have to worry about cards working or not working. So when it comes down to investing, most of you that know me know that I don't believe in IRAs, 401ks, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, or anything like that. I've shared with you before the 60 minutes presentation that is on YouTube called Rigged, and it shows how the stock market is rigged. And my biggest thing is, in 2008, they had speculated so much that the stock market went down 777.68 points in one day. I believe it was in October of 2008. Americans lost $10.3 trillion in savings. It didn't just disappear. It went to those banks that were too big to fail, that got bailed out. It went to foreign banks. It went to the CEOs and the CFOs of these companies who were manipulating the money and made the failure. It didn't go to you. And I know people who lost at least $100,000 out of their IRA or 401k or whatever. So my question to people was, why are you going back into that? And it's just because that's all they know, and they don't take the time to go and research to figure out where else they can put their money. Well, what I tell people and what I do is put money in hard assets. What are hard assets? Silver, gold, and real estate. There's some other ones, but silver, gold, and real estate. When I say silver and gold, I don't mean silver and gold stocks. I mean silver and gold I can put in my hand, and of course real estate I can put under my feet. So it's at a couple of times this within the last month, I think gold has gone up to close to $5,000 an ounce. When I started buying, it was $313 an ounce. When I started buying silver, it was $6 and something an ounce, and goodness knows what it is now. So it's like a hedge against inflation. I know there are a lot of people that are talking about silver and gold. You don't see Robert Kiyosaki out in the spotlight that much, because when he started saying cash is trash and gold is king, they kind of kicked him to the curb, because they want you to spend your hard-earned resources and invest in the stock market and stuff like that. And that's not what he learned. After a while, that everybody is researching is going to learn to be careful about anything that can disappear in the blink of an eye, and that's one of those things. Another thing is paying down debt, getting rid of as much debt, because debt tethers you. A house mortgage tethers you. You'll get your credit messed up if you don't pay the mortgage and stuff like that. So the less debt you have, the freer you are to move around. Whether that be business debt or not, you want to try to get rid of it. Now, that's not a priority over savings. So paying off debt is not a priority over saving, to me, in my humble opinion. And it's not over saving and investing. For example, if I had $10,000 and I had debt of $7,000, I would maybe put a little bit on that, maybe 2,000, but I would take the rest of it and do some investing and some saving, because when you invest properly, then you're going to have cash flow. So if you take the money and you invest it, you have cash flow, and that cash flow will be able to take care of that debt over time. It won't be immediately, but it'll be over time. So I believe in definitely paying down. Like if you got some small cards at like $1,200 and $900, yeah, get rid of those. But if you have debt that's 5,000 plus, don't. A lot of people don't understand that when you pay off that debt and you concentrate on the debt, then when you get in another emergency situation, which is usually not an emergency, when you get in a situation where you need money and you don't have any, then you're going to put it back on the credit card. And how many times have I known people that, paid off all the credit cards, and then within a year, they were back in that debt or more. Almost like, wait, huh? Anyway, that's another story. So, this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to let your insurances lapse. If your resources get low, do not let your insurances lapse. I've seen so many people do that. Their car insurance, their health insurance, their life insurance. And if something happens, you're just going to be out there. If you say, okay, I don't have enough money, I can't pay my car note. I can't pay my car insurance. I'm going to pay the note so they won't repossess the car, but I can't pay the insurance. And then, lo and behold, you hit somebody by mistake, or somebody hits you and they hit and run. My little daughter, Cheapo, had a car and somebody hit her. They T-boned her. Thank God it was on the passenger side and there were no passengers. And they ran. It was a hit and run. One of the drivers saw it was a woman in a large SUV, totaled her car and ran. And there were no cameras around. Just so happened to be no cameras around. So she's out of a car. And God don't like ugly. Whoever you are out there that did that to my baby, God don't like ugly. Anyway, that you don't want to, you don't want to not have insurance. You don't want to not have health insurance and life insurance. I know people that have let their life insurance lapse and then they passed away. Well, you leave your family in a predicament. Some of the other things, developing a contingency plan. Now, this is really important because we don't know what's going to happen. How many of you are aware that several years ago, and I don't know, Soulshine, you probably know this. Put a one in the chat if you've heard of the word suitcase nuke. We don't know what's here. We don't know what kind of sales are here. We've already had 2 events within the last, I think, 48 hours where there was some kind of a mass situation. I think one of them was in Michigan and one of them was in Virginia. But you don't know what people have in mind to do and what they have based on the fact that we're over there bombing another country for their oil. There's people from that country, and there are people that are sympathetic with those people that are here in the United States. So, how many of you have put together a contingency plan? Put a 1 in the chat if you put together a contingency plan for your family. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't know what that is. And I don't see the chat moving, so I don't know whether or not something's wrong. Okay. Yeah, it was something going on with it. So again, put a 1 in the chat if you have put together a contingency plan. Put a 2 in the chat if you know what a contingency plan is. I don't see any 1s or 2s, and I don't know. Somebody let me know if you all are not hearing me or what. Somebody, am I not on live anymore? Let's see. Okay, 222. You don't know what a contingency plan is. Okay, you can hear me as long as you can hear me. Nobody was moving. Okay, so a contingency plan is as far as what I'm talking about. If something happened to immobilize your city, in other words, shut the city down, you cannot travel or travel is limited. People are making a run on the grocery stores, all of that stuff like that. Do you have a plan with your family as to what to do? Okay, for example, I have 3 grandchildren. One of them is only 2 months old, so he's with his parents. They're still on leave. But I have one that's 22 months old, and he's in daycare. Then I have an 11-year-old granddaughter. She is in school. So we sat down and made a plan. If we know which days we work and which days, and my children work and all that. So it's like, who's responsible if something happens and whoever's closest to the children. If we cannot communicate via telephone, hey, I'm going to get the kids or whatever, whose responsibility is it to go get the children? Where is everybody going to gather? Is everybody going to go to their respective homes, or is there a home within the family that everybody is going to gather at so that everybody will be protected? Because if you got grandma over there by herself, then grandma knows that she needs to drive over to Joe's house because Joe is going to protect her, and Joe is her son. I'm just making up names. That's a contingency plan. So if you have not already put together a plan like that for your family, go ahead and put together a plan like that for your family. When you want to discuss plans with your family and things that you don't want anybody else to know, meet with your family. When they come over, have them leave their phones in their car and meet in a room that does not have a smart TV and it does not have computers. Get pen and paper, just the old-fashioned way, pen and paper, and write down what you all are talking about. Write down the plan. Go over the plan. Also, I've been tapped recently a lot because I have these I don't want to call them prepper books, but they're books that have old remedies in there. How you can go out in the backyard and get certain herbs and for wounds and things like that. I have a lot of those because it's kind of like once you subscribe to something like that, you get a lot of that in the mail. So I have books that I have purchased that are paperback or hardback books, and I have books that I have downloaded so that we will know how to build a stove, dig a hole and build a stove, and how to get clean water I don't know how clean it is now because, all the stuff they're raining down on us. And I just found out yesterday that when the stuff is raining down on us, there are microchips in there, not just chemicals, but microchips in there. It's getting very, very just disgusting. So yeah, but at least to purify some water, those just start looking up those books. There are a lot of those. There are books that'll tell you what to have in like a bug out bag or a backpack. For example, if you have a backpack in your car with water in it, with utility knives in it, first aid kit. I have one with tourniquets in it. Just different things, those kind of things. It's prayerfully none of this will happen. Prayerfully none of this will happen. But if it does happen, then you'll be somewhat prepared. So I'm going to go to the chat. It says, I really want the steps to set up the trust right now. That's a complex thing, and it's not. It starts out with, what kind of trust do you need? What kind of trust do you really need? And then it goes forward with that. So that's a sit down consultation, because that's not a one size fits all. That's not a cookie cutter thing, because different people in different walks of life and different socioeconomic strata need different kind of trust. Okay, let's see. Survival tactics. We do have some supplies like that. It definitely is needed. Everybody needs to know how to start a fire, or either have something on them at all times that can start a fire, that can break a window, all these different things that I'm so hard on people a lot of times, because we spend too much time entertaining ourselves with the television and the sports and stuff like that. And there's so much going on, and they're so happy that we're doing that. But the ones that are waking up are waking up. I listen to a whole bunch of wealthy people when I do listen, because that's who you're supposed to listen to. If you do what they do, you can have what they have. So what they're doing, some of them they're buying homesteads. And what a homestead is, it's some land, 5+ acres, 5, 10, 20, 40 acres, where 9 times out of 10 there's water on the property. There's enough room to build multiple houses. They're fencing in their homesteads. Some of them are getting animals like chickens. As a matter of fact, I just got invited to speak at a homestead uh, conference in May. I think it's May 8th, 9th, and 10th. And this I went to it before. It was in 2023, and it was pretty decent. They taught you how to shoot, and they taught you how to filter water and canning for those who want to learn how to can. It was a 3-day event. It was great. And definitely want to enjoy some of it at the same time that I'm speaking. I'll tell you all about that a little bit more. I think I'm going to interview the people that are putting it on, but it's in Villa Rica, Georgia, which is I-20 West going towards Alabama. I'm gonna have to stay with my son because he lives out that way. But we need to be thinking about getting the family together. Now, right now, that was all by design too, because we were all on farms near each other. Grandma was around the corner, auntie was down the street, but then we all got divided, and we don't spend a lot of time anymore, and things are getting hard financially. So I've been seeing online, put a 2 in the chat if you've been seeing online people talking about getting back together with family members, not being proud to move back home because you can't afford that $3,000 apartment anymore, that kind of thing. So getting a homestead would be something. It would probably be more like a long-term thing for some people, because they can't just up and do it. But those living in apartments or those renting can get together and try to go and qualify for a loan on some property that's making sure that the property is zoned where you can have multiple houses on the property. So for example, you find 10 acres, and that 10 acres is $300,000. And so you all combine, as long as you don't have a lot of debt, you can handle that. But then you also have to have, the ability to build your houses on there, like maybe shipping container houses or even tiny houses. But that's something that I think everybody needs to think about. And it in somewhere out, of course, it's going to be outside the city, because whatever city you are in, more than likely is not going to have 10 acres within the city. But then you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared to have to drive into the city if you need to. So that's something to think about. I'm going to go back to the chat. Yes, generational family versus nuclear family. Yeah, and put it all in a trust. Exactly. Well, again, there are other entities like foundations and limited family partnerships that work well. So it depends on where you are. And now, mind you, and I don't know if people really pay attention to this, all these entities, the more complex the entity, the more it costs to set it up. And if there's any kind of a return due, the more that's going to cost. So starting out small with something and then building up, or just selecting something that's going to work for you and your family, um, that and make sure that you are practicing tax avoidance. That will work also. Where can I schedule a consultation with you? My website is SherryPeelJackson.com, and if you go over to, I think it's solutions and then coaching, I have several different packages that are available from 1 hour all the way up to a year. And some people want me to hold their hand for a year and teach them how to start businesses. That's what I do. I have special tax packages for people that are in trouble with the insidious representatives of Satan, those kind of things. And tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is using the tax code to avoid paying taxes. So what you've heard people say over time is tax evasion is illegal, but tax avoidance is legal. And then there's this, I think it's a Supreme Court justice that wrote up this whole script about in Washington there are toll bridges, and in order for him to get to where he needs to go every day, he can pay the tax to go over the toll, or he can avoid that by driving around another way. So that's a choice that you have. Your choice to avoid taxes is going to require you to understand how the tax law works. The tax law is written for businesses. So if you're getting a W-2 and you're just getting a W-2, there are not a lot of deductions out there for people that have a W-2. But if you have a business, like Donald Trump said, he said when in 2016, when he was debating with Hillary Clinton, and she said Donald Trump didn't pay his taxes, and everybody said, and they sucked all the air out of the room. And then they called me, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I don't have TV, so I went online to see it. And then he said he's a smart man. That's his response to what she said, even though she doesn't pay taxes either. But the tax code basically gives incentives for businesses. There were, I don't know if the credit is still there, but I remember there being a credit if you had 40 acres and like a whole bunch of cattle on there. It was a huge credit. They have a lot of incentives for people that have businesses. So for example, this is what I teach my clients. I help them set up a business. We pick the business that's going to work for them. It has to be a business that's going to produce income at some point, because we're not setting up sham businesses. We're saying this one is going to make some money. Of course, it'll have some losses at the beginning. So one of the girls says, oh, I love quilting. I want a quilting business, and I want to make all these quilts. And I was like, sweetheart, that needs to stay a hobby, because Walmart and Target have quilts. You're not going to make any money like that. So you're setting up a business. And then when you set up a business under Internal Revenue Code Section 162, you can write off all ordinary and necessary business expenses. So we can write off everything but the kitchen sink, your cell phone, your internet, your mileage, all of these things that you cannot write off when you just work a W-2 job. So that's tax avoidance. And then when you get into the big money, when you get into corporations, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can avoid taxes using these different rules that these people made up for themselves and don't care for you to know about. See, the rules are out there. You can use them just like the wealthy people can use them. So that's what tax avoidance means. It means you're still in the system, whether you're getting a W-2 or you're getting, a 1099 or whatever, but then you have learned how to write off everything but the kitchen sink. That's what that is. So let's see. I had to write that down. Insidious representatives of Satan. That is who they are. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily the rank and file people that work there. They don't really know. And, some of them do, because they've called me and say, I really feel bad about this, but I got to keep this job because there's nowhere else I'm going to be making $130,000 a year. That's a choice. But at its core, I told you guys before, in my office here, I have this little, it's a placard, and there's some slaves. There are slaves from, slavery time with head wraps on, and they're in the cotton field and they're picking cotton. And the wording at the bottom says, if stealing 100% of the product of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage is it not slavery? So that means we're all slaves, because the product of my labor is being stolen. Let me pick somebody. I'm going to pick, let's see. Soulshine, since I've talked about you. Soulshine and I make a deal. We make a deal. I am going to cut Soulshine's grass, front and backyard, for $100. I'm using my brain, my arms, and my legs, which is my life force, which is time and energy that I'll never get back, to cut that grass. I'm going to get a $100 bill to feed my family and take care of some bills. In exchange, that's an even exchange. From the way I read our founding documents, that is not to be taxed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable means you can't put a lien on my right. You can't put a lien on my right to spend my life force in exchange for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, or life, liberty, and property. You cannot. And that's what's being done, all the way down to the fact that God owns this green earth, and you're not supposed to have property tax on it. You don't own it. Let me not get on a soapbox with that, but that's what I mean about we're not supposed to be taxed. So that's why I call them the insidious representatives of Satan, because they're taking money. Not only are they taking money, and it wouldn't be half as bad if they were taking money to, help the poor people and help the elderly and the disabled and all that. They're sending billions of dollars to other countries that cannot be named, for those people not to have healthcare costs and not to have to pay for college. Let me get off the soapbox. So yeah, that's why they're the insidious representatives of Satan. Let me go on. I've been following your work for 6 or 7 years. And yes, I run my own business. Multiple streams of income is what I teach my clients. Okay. Yeah. You can keep your W-2 job. That is great, because 9 times out of 10 on a W-2 job, that you're going to have your insurance coming out, and, it's stability for you. It's, you're getting paid every 2 weeks or every week or every month. That's stability. But then instead of coming home at 5 o'clock or whatever time you get off and turning on the electronic income reducer or the electronic intellect reducer, y'all know, the TV and the video games, you take some time and you decompress. You spend some time with your family. Let's say you get home at 6. You got off at 5, you get home at 6. From 6 to 8, you're eating, you're spending time with your family. The kids are doing homework, or y'all just having a family discussion if you got older kids. And at 8 o'clock, that's when you not turn on the electronic income reducer, but you start working on your home-based business. I know of people that have started from just starting a home-based business to consistently making $50,000 to $100,000 a year. Well, what do they do with that extra money? They split it in the beginning, they split it between paying off debts, investing, and saving. For example, I don't believe in emergencies. If my washer goes out, that's because it's 15 years old and I knew it was 15 years old. So I should have been putting money aside all that time for a new washer and dryer set. Or I have older relatives. I need to be putting money aside for plane tickets in case they pass away. I don't need to put it on a credit card at the last minute. Those kind of things. So saving, investing, and getting out of debt. And once the debt is gone, then you can start that, what I might call aggressive investing. Like, I'm not even going to talk about it because there are investments out there that I know about and participate in that aren't, you'll never learn about those from a banker or a broker, a stockbroker, usually making you broker and broker. But, my thing right now, and I'm putting a plug in for Costa Rica. You all know I have land in Costa Rica. I was there from February 14th to March 1st, trying to continue on getting things together. Things move slower there on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. They move a little slower, but they're moving. And it is what I am doing right now is trying to get a homestead here for our family and a homestead there for our family, because you need to be flexible. Because when the excrement really starts to hit the portable cooling device, I don't want to be in the middle of it. So let's see what else we have. Are you familiar with 508c1a? I am. And I read that. And what I thought about it is, it's not a code section that's giving you any authority. So I talked to my tax attorney. And yeah, 508c1a says that you don't have to be a 501c3. You don't have to be a 501c3. So I deal with churches a lot. A church is tax immune. It's tax immune. It's not tax exempt. It's tax immune, meaning it doesn't have, you can't tax it. So there are other ministries also that are tax immune. But 508c1, there are people out there that are promoting 508c1a as a thing. Like, if someone wants to do a 501c3, they have to fill out this forms and stuff like that. And, some of them are incorporated and all that. But 508c1a just tells me, hey, all ministries don't have to be a 501c3. And that's what I got out of it. And then the briefing that I paid for my attorney said the same thing. So yes, but there are people out there, but you're still tax exempt. The problem when it comes down to the IRS is they don't want people making money like on a job or a part-time business and trying to call that ministry income. And they're going after people left and right. That and the sole corporation are the areas that the IRS are looking at, because what people have been doing is they said, okay, well, I'm making $170,000 a year and I don't feel like paying taxes, so I'm going to become a ministry, and I'm going to call this the Church of the green and blue placard, whatever. And our motto is going to be this. Then the IRS has started to recognize that people are doing that and starting what they call church houses, and then what they're doing is they're coming over every Sunday to have dinner and whatever, but just be careful, if you're gonna do something like that, make sure that you don't leave room for them to do anything to you. Going back to the chat. Okay, I'm glad that was helpful. Any issues getting back from Costa Rica with all this going on? No. No. I didn't have any issues. I went on the plane and I got back. It was very crowded when I went. I didn't know it was the winter break here in Georgia, and it was 1 million children in the airport that morning, and everybody and their grandma. And then when I got to Costa Rica, into San Jose, the line was longer than I have ever seen it. We weren't even up to the zigzag area. It was seemed like it was a mile away from that, and I had a connecting flight to check on the local airline. So I went up to the front and said, please, I've got a connection. I've got a connection. So the guy asked to see my ticket, and I gave him the ticket, and he took me up, and I went on through. That was a blessing. So let me see the other things that I had on here. We talked about the contingency plan and stockpiling essential supplies and necessities in case of disruptions. One of the things that I say about the reason why I picked Costa Rica has to do with this. If the grocery stores close down in the United States, we're going to have pandemonium. And I saw part of that during the pandemic when people were making a run for toilet paper. The grocery stores closed down in Costa Rica, at least on the Caribbean coast. Just go out in the backyard, or in my case, the front yard, get you something to eat. I went on my property. I have 3 different properties. One of them that has a house on it that I'm paying for, and then the other 2 are land. And I went on the one that is near the beach. It has land, and I hadn't gone out in there it really deeply, but this time I did, and I found soursop out there. I found 2 lime trees. I found pineapple bushes because they kind of come up in a bush. I found cacao out there. So that's what, and coconuts out there. So I have 5 different things, and I hadn't even gone deep back in there. So there's going to be something to eat. And of course, the ocean is right across, and you can fish. I'm not going to fish with a line. There's somebody that's going to teach me how to fish, with some knee-high boots, and putting some stakes in the ground at 5 o'clock in the morning, not in the ground, putting some stakes in the water in different places at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then going back and just scooping up the net. That's what I like. So I'm looking forward to that. But these are things that need I started putting this whole thing in place in 2018, and we're still working on it. So those of you that want to live in that kind of community, just start getting yourself together for it. Things are changing. Some of them for the good, some of them for the bad. The prices are going up, but then we're putting together a situation where you can buy smaller plots of land. So instead of buying a whole acre, we're going to try to have it to where you can buy a quarter of an acre and half an acre, or a whole acre. Anyway, that's something else. So I had down here, we talking about stockpiling water. Now, how many of you are familiar with the whole thing in Flint? I think that whole thing also played out in Jackson, Mississippi, not too long ago. We can't live more than 3 or 4 days without water. So that's a very vulnerable part of our infrastructure, just like electricity is a vulnerable part of our infrastructure. I recommend people to try to, whatever way they can, start storing up some water, and or get a water purifier. What is it called? It's not Burpee, is it? No, it's not. It's Berkeley, I think it is. There's a company out there that makes these water purifiers. If you put the water in there, and it's got this whole charcoal set up, and then it'll come out, and they have different sizes so that, if you have to go get some creek water, at least it won't be as bad. So I'm gonna go back. Live with commercial ads, YouTube need to stop. I don't get that. Anyway, so when you are starting to look at what's going on in the country and you want to do something about it, I think the best thing to do is start researching online. Like, some of you might be in New York, some of you might be in Chicago, California, some of you might be in Mississippi. You're going to have different things that you can do. For example, in Arizona, they don't have, I think it's Arizona and Nevada. Your water might be shipped in, or you have a low amount of water. So that would be a priority for me. If I were out there, the water would be a priority more so than anything. The people in Florida, of course, they have a lot of water, but where supplies are shipped in, or supplies are, if you don't have some places that are actually producing, then I would have to start storing stuff up. I would want to start storing stuff up, because I don't know how long this is going to last. One thing I heard one day said that, oh, this war is going to be over in 2 weeks, and then something, I think the same day, talked about it being prolonged. I thought about how many young people that we have in the military, and I wonder how many of them are literally clueless as to, what to do, and how many people are clueless as to what to do to make sure that their families are okay. Are we really even thinking about that? Are people, are normal everyday people that go to work downtown Atlanta or wherever, are they thinking about these things? I don't know. Because I guess I don't hang around a lot of regular everyday people. Yeah, I don't. So is it worth becoming a private citizen? It depends on what you mean by that. Let me explain something. There are a lot of remedies that I've seen out there. Remedies like the secure party creditor, the accepted for value, and the revocation of election, and a whole bunch of different things that I've seen over the years that people try to put together for themselves. And I'm not discounting them in any kind of way. What I am saying, though, is whether they're legal, whether they're lawful, whether they're put together properly or not. The government is not going to have hundreds of thousands or millions of people opting out of the system using these things, even if they are something that is legal. In other words, there's a legal, there's a the Internal Revenue Code and all these codes and stuff are there. They've been misrepresented and misapplied. When people learn how to properly apply them, they're not having it. How many of you in the chat put a one in the chat if you've heard of equity? What's his name? Jordan Maxwell. How many of you have heard of Jordan Maxwell? He if you haven't heard of Jordan Maxwell, he's passed away now, but look him up. He really talked about what this whole court system really is, and I think he was brilliant. However, and I've seen some people win in court, but I'm starting to see people. I'm starting to see the system ignore the truth. I'm I'm starting to see a lot of dishonor in the system. And so you can ignore, if you have the quote unquote power, then you can ignore the truth and you can ignore the law. Talk about ignoring the law. Talk about being above the law. So you're ignoring the law and then you're above the law. And what I'm talking about when I thought about the law and what the law really says and how it's been skewed and misrepresented and misapplied, then I thought about what's going on with the Epstein thing. It's like I really stopped looking at it because every day it just got more bizarre and more disgusting and more vile. And I don't want to be called a goyim. That sounds just sounds awful. It sounds awful. I don't like, none of us want to be disrespected. And I think that all of us have been severely disrespected by these people that they're trying to shield. And I think that this whole Epstein saga plays into what's happening with us right now with this war. So it's not something that's disjointed or disconnected. It all runs together. So again, what are we going to do to protect our families from the blowback that's coming? Are we going to sit here every day and come home and entertain ourselves? Or are we going to start putting some plans together? So I know of somebody that I went to school with that said that they didn't want to move all the way out of the country, but they went and bought some land about 2 hours south of Atlanta. That's fine too. And they said that every other weekend or so they drive down to try to get things together there. I think they put a shed out there with some supplies, and maybe there's a house out there. So even if you can't or don't want to leave the country, get you some land somewhere here. Yes, I pray. That's number one right there. Uh, I, I don't think they're going to be held accountable. I just, I just because they're all in cahoots together. Because the ones who have the ability to make the ones accountable are all involved in it also. I heard a long time ago that you don't get in certain circles unless they have something on you. And I believe that about most of our government. If they don't have something on you, it's rare that they make it in if you're not a part of that club. Like to me, Thomas Massey is not necessarily in there. How whether you like her or not, I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene was in there, and that's why she's out now. Very outspoken. Ron Paul, Rand Paul, just a few other people, but for the most part, they get in there and they start making a whole bunch of money. Just like that, I think his name is Tim Waltz. He knew about all that stuff that was going on in his state. He knew about that. So yeah, blackmail is the entry. They have to have something on you because if they don't have anything on you, then they can't control what you say and what you do while you're in office. So you got, and I'm not naming any names. You got somebody saying, "Oh, we're going to um, make sure that we change this law and we when we take care of our bodies or we do this," and then they turn around and make laws to where it becomes um, illegal for you to say anything about a certain country, or it becomes a problem if you won't get any government business if you don't if you're saying something against certain countries or certain areas, or I don't know. um I just know that the people that you think are running the country aren't the ones that are running the country. So who's really running the country? And is that the person that you want to be up under? So think about it. I am going to go in 4 minutes, so I'm going to open it up for questions. um Anybody else want to know what I am doing? Just basically trying to get the family together, get everybody on one accord, see who's renting, see who's a buyer. um when do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell it now? When is your lease up, so that if you want to come on the property with us, we'll have something for you, all of that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just putting think about the homestead. So you want to know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get my family together. The people that are closest to me and that are dear to me, I want to protect them. I want to protect my grandchildren. I don't want them to have to grow up in a world that's just being controlled by others that don't give a hot flash about them. And it's already to a point, but it'll be worse if we don't do something. So I'm trying to, look at getting out of the city. I live in a subdivision. I have houses all around me, and I have been cultivating a nice garden. I have not only do I have kale and stuff in the kitchen, and in the growers, they call I think it's called aerial gardens, but I have blueberry bushes, blackberry bushes, a fig tree, pomegranate tree, two apple trees, a pecan tree, a peach tree in the front yard, a whole bunch of some raised bed. All of that stuff is back there. But if you're in the middle of a subdivision, how are you going to stop people from coming to get your stuff? I mean, I wouldn't want to. Well, we're not going to go there, but yeah, just getting your family together. Okay, politician is the only profession I'm aware of where you can go in the office poor and leave rich. I am telling you, how can you go into politics with $100,000 net worth and come out 5 years later, 10 years later with a $14 million net worth? There's a lot going on with that, and a lot of them go in there for that. But again, I get angry sometimes, and I don't like negative energy. I try to redirect the negative energy into something that I can do. So I use my hands and my brain to ward off the negative energy. So if I'm angry over here about what's going on and this war and this gas, then I'm going to focus on, hey, helping the clients and myself, get our businesses together, get our assets together. Can I get your contact information again? It is connect at SherryPeelJackson.com, and that's Peel, Peel, like orange peel, potato peel. Peel is my maiden name, and they used to call me that kind of stuff in elementary school. You know how children are cruel. But SherryPeelJackson.com is the website, and connected SherryPeelJackson um, .com is the email. So there's a lot of stuff on the website. I have this whole section about, learn about who I am and stuff like that. Exactly, moving out of the cities is first step. That's mandatory. Moving out of the city, if you can possibly do that. AOC was a broke bartender. There's so many of them, Soul Shine, that were broke, and they went into that, and all of a sudden, I'm not saying what they're doing for the money. One of the things I do know they're doing for the money is the insider trading. They know things before they happen, and they invest. That's been going on for ages. Look at Nancy Pelosi. They've got a whole group of people following Nancy Pelosi's trades so they can make money. It's terrible. Is your phone number on your website? It is. Phone number. I have a business phone number, and I'm going to go and tell you what it is. It is 470-558-0888. That's the business telephone number. And one other thing, those of you that are interested in Costa Rica, we do have an expedition going to Costa Rica again in October. And I think that information is somewhere on inside the YouTube. So down there in the description area where you put where the people leave comments, it's down there. Maxine Waters is another one. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's time for them to get out, because what are they accomplishing for the people? I think Maxine Waters or one of the other ones got in trouble for giving her grandchildren grant money that was supposed to go to poor people. It's just a lot of corruption. And we look at other countries and talk about their corruption, but that's like calling the pot calling the kettle black. Anyway, so I am going to go. I don't know when I'm going to be back on, but I take that back. I might be on before April 3rd, but on April 3rd, I'm going to have someone on talking about homesteading and explaining how you can, get together with your family and start homesteading. So that's going to be, I'm looking forward to that, because I'm looking forward to learning how to homestead better. I went to the conference before, but I want to go again. And I'll be speaking about finances at the conference, but I want to see all the great presenters that were teaching us actually how to homestead. Is a password needed to travel? A passport. You do need a passport to travel to Costa Rica. You do. Everybody should have their passports. My grandchildren have their passports. Not the baby one that just was born, but have your passport. Please get your passport, because you might need to take a trip. And with that, I am going to say good night and make sure that my granddaughter gets to bed. Have a great one, guys.